Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American thriller action film from 2026, titled Pretty Lethal. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens with a voiceover by a woman describing the effort, pain, sacrifice, and passion required to become a ballerina. It then introduces a group of ballerinas rehearsing for an upcoming performance, and shortly after, the main character, Bone, joins them. Bones has a rival named Princess, and the two frequently clash, even during practice. The group consists of two sisters, Zoe and Chloe, one of whom has a hearing impairment, along with Grace and their instructor, Miss Thorna. During rehearsal, Princess repeatedly interrupts Bones by getting in her way, and after practice, the tension escalates, and Bones punches Princess in the face. Later, Miss Thorna meets Bone outside and reprimands her for the incident, and Bones insists it was an accident. Their conversation shifts to the upcoming Budapest showcase, which Miss Thorna believes could change Bones' life, though Bones remains skeptical. The following day, the group travels by plane to Hungary for the performance, and while continuing their journey by bus, they pass through a dense forest when the bus suddenly breaks down, leaving them stranded. Miss Thorna contacts the event organizers to inform them of the situation, while the driver attempts to repair the bus. Since the repairs will take too long and the nearest town is only 2 kilometers away, the group decides to continue on foot with their belongings. After a long walk in the rain, they arrive at a location where they spot a nearby inn called Termach. Upon arrival, they meet a man named Osip, who works there, and when Princess asks about getting a cab, Osip agrees and invites them inside. Inside the inn, the ballerinas find the place appealing and notice several other people staying there for various reasons. Impressed by the beauty of the place, Zoe decides to take a picture of herself, but her sister tells her to stop acting childish. Meanwhile, Bones notices a portrait of a ballerina on the wall, and Osip explains that the woman in the picture is his boss, who was once an exceptional dancer. She was regarded as the next Fontaine, but after a tragic accident, she was never able to dance again. From the upper floor, a woman is seen quietly watching them, and the group is then introduced to another worker at the inn, Sona. The girls change into their tutus to replace their wet clothes and are served food. Shortly afterward, the mysterious woman joins them and introduces herself as Devora, the owner of the Termach Inn and the same ballerina Osip had mentioned. Devora explains that she was once a dancer and, upon learning that the girls are scheduled to perform at the International Ballet Gala in Budapest, offers to arrange a minivan to take them into the city. Moments later, a dangerous gangster named Pasha Markovic arrives at the inn with his henchmen. The bar attendant, Zoli, gives him some cash and asks him to deliver it to his father. Meanwhile, Chloe needs to use the restroom, and Miss Thorna decides to accompany her, and Osip guide them, with Pasha watching them closely. At the same time, a pianist begins playing Sugar Plum on the piano, and the rest of the group starts dancing, drawing the attention of those around them. While waiting for Chloe, Miss Thorna begins to hear strange noises coming from another room. Curious and concerned, she follows the sound and discovers Devora and her sons torturing a man and branding his tongue. Terrified, Miss Thorna rushes back to get Chloe, only to find that she is no longer in the restroom, and without thoroughly checking, she quickly returns to warn the others. On her way, Miss Thorna is stopped by Pasha, who begins making unwanted advances toward her, and in an attempt to defend herself, she knees him in the groin. However, in response, Pasha shoots her in the head, killing her instantly, and the incident leaves Bones and the other ballerinas in shock. Pasha then declares that they are on Markovic territory. Devora appears, clearly displeased with his actions, and attempts to calm the situation. Princess urges Devora to call the police, and she agrees, instructing Osip to escort the dancers to the basement. Noticing the tension, Bones runs away from the hotel, but she does not get far before one of the henchmen knocks her unconscious. Meanwhile, Chloe leaves the restroom and realizes she is alone. While walking, she encounters a guy named Artyom, who also works in the hotel, and the two quickly form a connection. As Ossip escorts the dancers to the basement, he reassures them that his boss will handle the situation, and seeing Grace still panicking, Ossip offers her a chocolate to help calm her down. Devora orders her sons to dispose of Miss Thorna's body, while Sona wipes the blood from the floor. One of the sons returns the unconscious Bones to the hotel, where she is taken to the basement. Devora expresses her anger toward Pasha for his actions, and in turn, Pasha suggests killing the dancers if they refuse to cooperate. Devora responds that this would not be easy, explaining that the disappearance of the dancers would not go unnoticed. She assures Pasha that she will handle the situation, which causes him to laugh. Pasha reminds her that he is the son of Lothar the Butcher and warns Devora not to force him to call his father, as there would be no mercy. However, Devora states that she would welcome the meeting. She explains that for many years she has been paying Pasha's father, a debt inherited from her own father, but declares that the payments will stop. She tells Pasha that if his father wants his money, he should come and see her in person and collect the money Zoli gave him earlier. Meanwhile, Bones wakes up and finds Sona questioning Grace, and despite Bones' attempt to signal Grace not to say anything, Sona learns that nobody knows that the dancers are in Termach Inn. She then leaves to inform Devora, and after hearing this, Devora orders his sons to dispose of the dancers' belongings, and their passports and cell phones are destroyed. Devora also discovers Chloe and Artia making out and takes Chloe away. He later calls a cleaner, Doctor, to erase any trace of the dancers' identities, including Miss Thorna. In the basement, Bones frees herself from her restraints and goes to Grace, where she discovers that Grace has been drugged by the chocolate Ossip gave her. Meanwhile, Ossip moves the dancers' belongings to another room in the basement. When Grace and Bones notice him approaching, they pretend to be asleep. Ossip then approaches Grace, appearing attracted to her, with the intention of touching her inappropriately. At that moment, Bones quietly removes a pin from her hair and violently stabs Ossip in one of his eyes. A struggle ensues between them, and due to her drugged condition, Grace begins to experience hallucinations. During the struggle, Bones and Ossip crash into a wall, ending up near the area where Princess and Zoe are being held. Using her dancing skills, Bones attempts to overpower Ossip, but he proves too strong for her. Before Ossip can break one of Bones' legs, Grace grabs a spear and throws it at him, but she misses. Taking advantage of the distraction, Bones attacks Ossip, causing him to impale himself on the spear, which results in his death. The four dancers return, and Bones suggests that they leave the hotel. Princess insists that they should stay and wait for the authorities. However, Bones explains that no one is coming for them because no one knows they are missing. Princess disagrees, arguing that attempting to escape may lead them into further danger, which she wants to avoid. Bones reminds her that if they stay, they could all be killed, as Devora would not allow his secret to be exposed. Meanwhile, Doctor arrives at the hotel with a man restrained in the back of his van. After meeting Devora, Doctor is taken to Miss Thorna's deceased body, and the psycho plans to remove certain parts of the body and carry out the same process on the dancers so that no one will be able to identify them. In response, Pasha orders his two henchmen to kill the dancers, and at the same time, the dancers attempt to leave the basement. Grace continues to experience hallucinations, and when the dancers hear footsteps approaching, they quickly run and hide in a room. While searching for them, one of the henchmen discovers Ossip's dead body and informs the other. At the same time, the dancers find their bags and arm themselves with sharp objects to confront the henchmen. After locating the girls, the henchmen begin shouting for them to come out. Bones tells them to leave them alone, but this angers the henchmen, and they attempt to force their way in. Bones stabs one of them in the nose with scissors, and the other henchman forces his way inside, and the girls attack him, stabbing him with sharp objects. However, he overpowers them. The second henchman then joins in, and together they begin to overpower the four dancers. However, the women do not give up and continue to struggle for their freedom, fighting desperately, though the henchmen still overpower them. Eventually, Grace snaps and brutally stabs one of the henchmen to death, while Bones kills the other using a blade hidden in one of her ballet shoes. The remaining dancers also secure blades in their ballet shoes as they exit the basement. Princess remains focused on escaping, even after learning that Chloe is still missing, and urges Grace to follow her. Grace refuses and decides to follow Bones and Zoe to search for Chloe, while Princess goes off on her own to find an escape route. Bones, Zoe, and Grace go to the restroom to search for Chloe, but instead find Sona, who reveals Chloe's location after Bones threatens her. Meanwhile, while searching for an exit, Princess enters a room where she discovers Doctor cutting off Miss Thorna's fingertips. She quietly leaves the room, and on her way, she is confronted by one of Devora's sons, Saber, who questions her presence. Princess lies and creates a story, telling Saber that she is returning to the basement, and he allows her to pass. Elsewhere, Bones, Grace, and Sarah find Chloe in Devora's office, along with her ballet memorabilia. Zoe explains the situation to Chloe, who is unaware of what has been happening, and Bones manages to find a gun. Meanwhile, Devora goes to the basement and discovers Pasha's henchman dead, with no sign of the dancers. The girls leave the office and quickly hide in the kitchen when they spot Devora approaching. While hiding, the girls begin to hear a strange sound. It turns out to be Princess, and despite her pride, she reveals what she has seen, specifically, Doctor mutilating Miss Thorna's body. Meanwhile, Devora orders her thugs to find and kill the girls, and they are all dispatched. Pasha tells her that she is too late, claiming his henchmen have already dealt with the dancers, but Devora informs him that they are all dead. Back in the kitchen, the girls find a telephone and attempt to call for help. At the same time, Pasha calls his father, Lothar Markovich, with the disturbing news, prompting Lothar to drive to the inn. Pasha warns Devora that she should not have interfered with him, as his father is now on his way and she will have to answer to him. In her office, Devora retrieves and activates several C4 explosives, though her intentions remain unclear. Elsewhere, Artyom finds Sona tied up in the restroom, and at the same time, the dancers quickly hide when they see Saber approaching the kitchen. While hiding, Princess attempts to call for help using the telephone, but Saber cuts the wire and captures her. However, she manages to shoot him in the hand with the shotgun, allowing the girls to escape. As they run, the thugs begin chasing them, and the girls arm themselves with sharp objects for defense. Eventually, the thugs confront them, and Bones tells the others that if they want to survive, they must work together. Using their ballet training as a form of combat, the dancers begin taking down the thugs inside the hotel. Despite being outnumbered, they put up a strong fight, managing to kill some of the thugs while leaving others severely injured. Meanwhile, Devora is seen rigging the hotel with C4 explosives, and after the fight, the girls escape through a broken window. Armed with a gun, Sona attempts to confront them but accidentally shoots Saber, killing him, and the girls are able to overpower her. Bones manages to get the others to safety, but she is captured by Devora, who shoots Pasha in the legs to demonstrate her power. With Bones restrained, Devora reveals her past, explaining that Pasha's father was responsible for her prosthetic leg after her father failed to repay a debt, which ultimately ended her ballet career. She kept Pasha close to her, waiting for the right opportunity to take revenge, and as Lothar approaches Termach Inn, Devora puts on her prized tutu. Meanwhile, the restrained Bones is confronted by Doctor, who prepares to remove parts of her body. He removes one of her fingernails, but Bones mocks him, laughing in defiance, and angered, Doctor knocks her unconscious. The other girls grow concerned when Bones does not return, prompting Princess to go back into the hotel to search for her. She finds Pasha in Devora's torture chamber, where he pleads for help, but Princess ignores him, and at the same time, Lothar and his henchmen arrive at the hotel. The remaining girls rush back to warn Bones and Princess, while Pasha manages to escape from the torture chamber. Bones regains consciousness and finds Doctor preparing to amputate her leg, but Princess arrives and kills Doctor. After freeing Bones, they encounter the injured Pasha, and Princess knocks him unconscious. Soon after, all 5 dancers regroup, and Zoe informs Bones and Princess that the hotel has been rigged with C4 explosives. Devora then appears with the remote trigger, demanding that they hand over Pasha. Showing sympathy for Devora's tragic past, Bones pleads with her to spare them, appealing to her as a fellow dancer. However, Lothar's men suddenly open fire. Holding Pasha hostage, Devora forces him to order his father to command his men to cease fire, and then instructs the girls to flee the hotel. Seeking revenge for the loss of her leg in her ballet career, Devora reveals her true identity to Lothar before activating the explosives. The detonation kills Devora, Lothar, Pasha, and Lothar's men, while the girls manage to escape in the nick of time. With everything finally over, the girls commandeer some of Lothar's motorcycles and ride away, passing the broken-down bus and eventually arriving in Budapest. They make their way to the theater, and despite all they have endured, the ballerinas perform their repertoire beautifully as a team, and the story concludes with their performance. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Pretty Lethal from 2026. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.